Time for Macbreak Weekly. Andy's here, Renee's here, Lori Gill's here. We have lots to talk about. Well, of course, the iMac. Rene has his review, the new iMac. I won't spoil it for him. He likes it a lot. We're also going to talk about Apple Silicon, whether there will be anything this year or not. There seems to be some confusion. TikTok, is this a good thing banning it? Is it a bad thing? And we're also going to talk about watchOS 7. The new beta is here. Rene has it. He'll tell you why you shouldn't get it. And then it's time to celebrate the birthday of one of our heroes. We'll do it with a song. It's all coming up next on Macbreak Weekly. Macbreak Weekly comes to you from TWiT's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is TWiT.
This is Macbreak Weekly, episode 726, recorded Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. A song for Woz. This episode of Macbreak Weekly is brought to you by LastPass. Allow your remote workforce the ability to do their best work without jumping through hoops. Ensure your business's security with LastPass. Visit lastpass.com/twit to find out how they can help you. It's time for Macbreak Weekly, the show where we get together with our friends and family, basically, to talk about the Macintosh computer and the world of Apple, a $2 trillion company. Rene Ritchie's here. He was here on Sunday. It's nice to see you again, Rene, from Rene Ritchie.
That was so much fun, but it's fun to be back with the team, too.
Yeah, and, you know, the nice thing about doing TWiT, he was on the Sunday show, is you could talk about things besides Apple. Although there was lots of Apple stuff to talk about. Andy Nacco is also here from WGBH, Boston Public Radio. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. And, of course, from imore.com, where she reigns as managing editor, it's Lori Gill. Hello, Lori.
Hi-yo.
Hi-yo. Hi-yo.
Hi-yo.
Hi-yo. Okay, that's just a rumor, right? That they're not going to do a Apple Silicon Mac till next year. That's just a rumor. Nobody knows.
They said they're doing one this year.
They said they're doing one. Yeah.
Tim Cook said that there will be an Apple Silicon Mac system released this year.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
Though,
and peace in our time.
Defense of
peace in our time.
In defense of the rumor, though, we don't. I mean, there's always going to be something that could come up that could postpone the launch of something. So, even though they did say they would have something at the end of the year, the one thing that we've learned about 2020 is nothing is what it seems.
I'll be so sad.
Yeah, but to be fair, this was an announcement that Apple made like during the shank of 2020. So that's at this point they should have a good idea of whether something's going to ship on time or not. So I would tend to believe that it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I didn't say which one.
The only reason I say that is because I have pledged to myself, since no one else is asking, don't buy any computers until Apple Silicon comes out. Because then I'm going to want to go crazy. I can't wait.
Yeah. Don't even look at the new iMac, Leo. Just don't turn.
You love it, don't you? I saw your review on YouTube. You think it's great.
So for what I do, like the combination of the nano texture display, which I only got to try it out last WWDC during the event. I haven't lived with one because I just can't spend that much money on a display. But this iMac with it's latest generation Intel, which is the same as last generation Intel, but it's got way better AMD graphics, a way better camera with a back illuminated sensor and an A11 series or an A10 series image signal processor. Camera looks great, but that nano texture display that big on top of P3 color gamut and Retina like 5K, it is the best screen I have ever seen, and I have an LG OLED across the room from it.
But how do you not touch it?
Alone. I know, right?
I won't touch it. No, Lori keeps telling me to. I'm not. She's like, how does it feel? I'm like, I will never know.
I want to touch one so bad.
What would happen? You're not even allowed to clean it normally. You have to use a special...
No, you are. I asked. They said like you can. They give you a cloth with it, and you can use a microfiber cloth. They're just saying that it will degrade over time if you're not careful with it. So use a microfiber cloth. You can use water. You can even use display cleaner, but be gentle with it. Act like it costs an extra $500 is I think the takeaway message here.
Will there be issues with Apple Silicon, though? Maybe I should just go out and get that new iMac.
Oh, you're just trying to convince yourself to get it now.
Well, I do. There's two things that are unique. I mean, besides the fact you get 10th generation Intel Silicon, which I've had.
It's the same as 9.
I've had. Who cares?
It's the same as 9. Just you can get 2 extra ports if you want them. It's the only difference.
I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. But the better camera, right? And you said it's a lot better. Like it's not just 1080p
and the microphones.
better.
It's 1080p with Apple's image signal processor behind it, and they make one of the best image signal processors in the business.
Is that going through the T2?
Yeah, the T2 is essentially an Apple A10, the same chip that was in the iPhone 7, and they're doing everything. They're doing white balancing, they're doing face detection for the focus, and also they moved the illumination behind the sensor, so it produces a much cleaner image.
Okay, so that's one selling point, and then there's this matte screen, which is a $500 upsell, just to get the laser.
Well, they got to have a little robot go in there and texture it nanally, Leo. It doesn't texture itself.
Well, that's an interesting question. How do they make the nano texture
lasers?
Screen? Really?
I believe it's
they send little mice in to nibble at it.
I know it's Keebler elves,
string cheese down.
What is the technology?
But it works really well because like the traditional way of doing a mat is a layer on top of the screen, and it does diffuse light, but it does it at the expense of contrast. And what this is doing is making an irregular surface, so the light is not bouncing off clean. It's sort of scattering it instead of diffusing it. So you will see light on it, but it'll be like this just lighter diffuse area instead of like these big, like you will never see your window on the screen.
Yeah, this is
a lot of Dieter.
Dieter with his original iMac 720p camera compared to the new iMac. I know it's not worth buying a whole new computer just for that, right? You could just.
Well, this camera I have here is $200. It's the 4K Logitech Brio, and I don't look like me on it. But on the iMac camera, I have my skin tone, and it handles the colors way better. It exposes way better. So I'm way happier with that than I am with this $200 Logitech right now.
Here's his image of the screen with glare, and then on the left the nano texture, and that's
gets
a big
me.
difference.
That's exactly it.
That makes me want to just buy a new iMac just for that screen.
And touch it, though,
I
right?
know that's a ridiculous thing to do, but God, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I want it on the MacBooks.
Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
An Apple Silicon Macbook.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just going to button what you said by saying that it's essentially the camera has gone from totally sucks to good.
Yeah, I know.
It's really realize that one of the hallmarks of Apple has always been absolutely sucky webcams. So it's nice. It's nice that they realize that people actually use these damn things. It's not just a hole they can just drill into the face of it and just keep putting nothing behind it.
And you make such an interesting point there too, because Apple has always really prided itself on how good its camera is on an iPhone, and it's actually one of the early computers to have a built-in webcam. Yet they never really did much with it. It's been kind of a crappy webcam all along.
As I remember, even the iSight, the old standalone camera, wasn't that good.
No.
Well, it might have been for the time.
Of era,
for the time, it was great, right? But yeah, I mean, mostly the engineering has been behind how small can we make a potato?
Yeah.
Can we slip it behind that bezel? You know?
Yeah. So I have the iMac Pro, which does have a 1080p camera. It has a better camera in it. Yeah. And I've used it. It's not great. The best thing, The best thing is if you can get something like the Elgato capture dongle and use a good
if you're
camera.
Alex Lindsay.
Well, no, I'm going to do. That's what I'm doing. I'm using the A7, my Sony A7, with the Elgato. Well, actually, I don't have. The problem, unfortunately, is Elgato's been wildly sold out of the cam link. I think it's now back.
Because that's what I'm using.
I can use an A10.
I just don't have a power cable, so I can't use it for Macbreak because the battery doesn't last long enough.
You have an A10, but you're running it via the battery?
No, my Canon EOS R.
Oh, that makes more sense.
I never got a power cord for it, so I can't run the camera long enough.
It is annoying. There's a few things you have to do. You have to get I bought a dummy battery that goes in the battery slot.
Yes.
And then has a power line coming out of it. And you could plug that in the wall. You also have to be able to get clean HDMI out, which I'm able to do on the Sonys. Your Canon you can do that with as well.
Yeah.
Your Canon has the ability and firmware to do it over USB, but I don't think that's a good choice. And it didn't work until recently with the Mac. So
Yeah, a lot of those are getting those updates though, which is nice. Finally,
yeah,
that's one of the big capital F finallys.
Yeah.
So my Olympus finally got that upgrade just 2 months ago, and it's a 5-year-old camera. So if you have an older camera, by all means, check for new firmware.
Yeah. USB is never going to be quite as good though as the HDMI out on a lot of cameras, and of course, don't forget.
I mean, the new USB's probably got the bandwidth for it, doesn't it? I mean, like the new one's going to have DisplayPort 1,
But does your camera have even USB 3?
Oh no,
probably not.
God, you're right. Yeah, it's the other end. The problem's on the other end.
Problem is the camera. And so ideally you'd be able to get a clean HDMI out of it. You can get that little power adapter. The Camlink, I'm told, is now back on sale from Elgato. So that's the easiest choice. You see it as HDMI in. You'd also have to get a mini or micro HDMI to full-size HDMI cable, plug that into the USB port. But I have also found on Amazon, in fact, somebody got one. Was it Micah or somebody got one? We're going to try a bunch of them. If you look for the Camlink, you'll see there's a bunch of knockoffs, Chinese knockoffs that are a lot less expensive. The Camlink's expensive, over $100. So I'm going to try one of these cheap Chinese knockoffs and see.
And they just announced a new ATEM last week too, the ATEM Live or something. I forget what the name is.
Yeah.
They announced a brand new ATEM as well, which looks really good. This is
the Blackmagic Design hardware switchers. And I have the Mini, which is $300. There's the ATEM Mini Pro, which is $600. How much is the Live? It's got to be more, right?
I can never tell because they're smaller or bigger and more expensive or less expensive, Leo, and I get very confused. I assume it'll handle their new 12K camera because that's a thing now too.
Yeah. Let's see. The ATEM, I'm looking at B&H. Oh, no, it's only $300. So maybe this is the one I have then. What's nice about this is it has software. You can do a green screen. So, and this has the Camlink equivalent inside. You put HDMI into it from the camera, and
it's got a good
USB
key,
out.
like an Alex Lindsay
really good key.
Yeah.
Just be aware. They have I believe the less expensive version is capped at 1080, meaning it'll take 4K inputs, but will only give 1080 output.
That's one advantage of the new ATEM Mini Pro, which is, I guess it'll do. Will it? I don't know. I'm so confused. And then there's. And Blackmagic's kind of cool. Yeah, it is 4K compatible, but I can't see what the output is.
They're like actualized nerds. It's like if a bunch of nerds had the ability to make a company and put out what they wanted to. That's exactly what Blackmagic feels like.
You can record, and I do record using one of Blackmagic's recorders. So I imagine if you could take 4K in, you could record 4K. You might need that instead of using the USB port to your computer. Because all of these end up looking like a USB webcam. That's how they work. Yeah. They take HDMI and turn them into a webcam. You can also do this with your phone, your iPhone. There's good software out there that will turn your iPhone into a webcam, right?
I've never tried it. I've seen it.
I think the problem is that some of this streaming services, like Zoom and
like it.
Hangouts and things like that, they don't play friendly with it.
So the Epic Cam, which is I think the one Micah might use. EPOC Cam works with Zoom, Teams, and Skype. So this is it. These virtual cams have always had a little bit of an issue. So that's on the App Store. Good news is it's free. So Epic Cam, EPOC. There's iPhone and there's iPad version. And now that the new iPad Pro has a decent camera, maybe that's a good solution. Yeah. And you can use the iPad's microphone, which probably sound better than a lot of other microphones. I don't know how we went down this rabbit hole. Where were we?
We're talking about how bad the webcams usually are in the new Mac.
Yeah, the new Mac. Okay. What actually I was going to ask is it foolish to buy Rev 1 of Apple Silicon?
For us? No. For other people, sure.
I'm prepared to take the hit.
It'll be Rev 1,
wait,
but some of us want to be along for
Rene,
that ride.
Leo, did you just say that you are willing to buy this Intel Mac? I feel like last week you said who would buy an Intel Mac?
No, Lisa. So this all came up before the show. I found out my wife bought the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And now I'm jealous because she's got a better laptop than I do. But I have sworn to myself I would not buy another Intel Mac, period, because... as good as this iMac is or whatever, first of all, I don't need one. So I want to get, but that means I probably will buy if they do a 13-inch MacBook Pro Apple Silicon this year, I will probably buy it.
Or 14-inch.
Or 14-inch. Or if they do a MacBook Air Apple Silicon this year, I will buy it. And maybe I'm making a mistake is what I'm asking.
Oh, no, I don't think you are.
I don't think I am either. I don't think I am either.
I think the Apple Silicon Mac is going to be a good purchase. I think
really Rev 1. They've been making Apple Silicon since 2007.
Yeah, exactly.
But they haven't had 5 million people using it.
No,
and the people.
No, they've only had a billion people using it, y'all.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about like the silicon they've been making like for Macs inside Cupertino.
No, exactly. But I don't think it will be so different. So that's actually really maybe the more germane question. It's not Rev 1, but is the transition from mobile Apple Silicon to desktop or laptop Apple Silicon, how big a transition is this, and how many hiccups might there be along that road? That's really the real question.
I think the only question is going to be app compatibility. Like if you're using older apps that a lot of us have favorite utilities and favorite little apps that was the pet project of somebody until about 3 or 4 years ago, and it'll still run, but it'll run under emulation. Whereas like BB Edit on day one, that bare bones click the button in
Rich is going to make it work. Yeah,
exactly. You click the button in Xcode. So yes, by all means, please do make my app run really well on Apple Silicon. So I think that it'll be, if you have an app that you rely on day to day, and you know that it's been upgraded for Apple Silicon, I might hold off for a month just to make sure that the first penguin off the ice floe doesn't get eaten. But I wouldn't worry about it. As far as for instance, like for a MacBook in my own use, my MacBook, I wouldn't hesitate to upgrade to Apple Silicon almost immediately. For my desktop, where I do have a lot of like open source projects that are 3 or 4 years old, one utility that's 5 years old that I really like, but again, probably some high schooler punched it out in about 6 weeks and then moved on. That remains to be seen how well those apps are going to work in an emulated environment. But yeah, I mean, this for me, the sweet spot has always been a battery-powered Mac running Apple Silicon. So I absolutely wouldn't. If Apple, one of the many colorful rainbow of rumors that are out here is that not only are we going to see a new MacBook nothing under Apple Silicon, but it's going to be super, super crazy cheap as far as MacBooks go. And if that were to pan out, if there were to be an $800 or $900 MacBook, I would be on it like a fly on a ship.
So you raised an interesting thing. So Rich Siegel could flip that switch on Xcode, but for all we know, there's stuff he's doing in BB Edit that for one reason or another just won't translate. That's the real risk. It's not like that he's not going to know, flip that switch. It's that there are capabilities that for some reason are not supported in Apple Silicon. I think you're not going to see bugs, right? Because like I said, this is not a Rev A.
I think this is what the developer kit that Apple is offering. I think that's the thing that will take care of that, so that while developers are actually transitioning to Apple Silicon, this little kit will just allow the translation of the language. So again, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think if anything, we'll start to see the issue a year or two from now when these developers haven't done their due diligence to update to Apple Silicon. Here
would be the showstoppers, and it's not even a showstopper, but if Chrome doesn't work or Electron doesn't work, which is kind of a Chromium framework for apps.
And we know Google is so speedy about updating their apps in the best of circumstances.
Yeah. And if Electron doesn't work, well, there's a lot of apps like Skype and Slack that won't
Discord.
work.
God.
Yeah. So that could be not a showstopper, but it could be a cause for the pause.
Yeah.
Although Chrome has worked on ARM for years. I mean, there'd be no excuse not to I just can't see a world where Chrome doesn't work on ARM.
Yeah. These days, and somebody's saying this in the chat room, Apple Silicon in the chat room, which is different. It's a different thing. I do not think that word means what you think it means. But anyway, says that no one really is programming to the hardware these days or the system architecture anymore. You're not writing code. But Intel kind of asked people sometimes to do things that were kind of not so nice to take advantage of the processor. So I wonder.
Well, Apple is sometimes the same thing. One of the consistent complaints I keep getting from developers is that they've had code that works absolutely perfectly and reliably, and it's at the heart of the way that their app works. And Apple, without being able to tell them that we have a titanic change planned in 2020, or rather, we're going to be switching to Apple Silicon at some point. We don't know when, but that could happen at any moment. Please swap out this old code you're using. And the resistance to upgrading that software is that, hey, look, we had this amazing idea for version 9 of our app to expand it, to make it much more functional, to add features that our users have been asking for time and time again. And you're telling us that we should stop all that and instead devote the next 2 months of our time to just making sure that we can follow a mouse cursor again, because you're telling us that the way that you've told us in the past and the way that you've approved it for the App Store no longer has been deprecated, and you're not going to approve this for the App Store if we have our mouse cursor working this way forevermore.
Right.
So that's the sort of stuff that can bite people in the butt. And to be fair, it's hard to balance Apple's need to keep developers informed of things they absolutely need to do in order to make a transition like this painless, without being able to tell them a transition like this is coming up. So yes, you are definitely going to want to pull all of your resources into changing your code so that this old piece of deprecated code doesn't work anymore. Those are the little sort of side cases that are going to bite a lot of people in the butt, and those are the sort of things that those are the reasons why I would wait a month. Not because I think that the hardware is going to fail, but because that's when you're going to find out that, okay, Andy, but your favorite CD ripper is no longer going to work because it's older code. It doesn't, it's either not going to work or it's going to work in emulation and now have a performance that maybe you're not going to like. Be aware of that before you plunk down $2,000 for a Pro model.
Although, to be fair, that's what happened when a lot of people upgraded to Catalina.
True.
So we might have already gone through that pain. Yeah. If it were my only Mac, I would absolutely maybe hesitate. But I'm going to have a desktop.
Just keep your old one.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my iMac Pro, and I have a MacBook Air on Intel. Yeah. I'm really waiting to. I'm so excited about Apple Silicon. Maybe inappropriately, but I think I'd be willing to put my money where my mouth is and buy whatever. Yeah. They come out with. Yep. I think the potential for great battery life, performance in interesting ways. It's not just going to be faster. Yes. It's going to be faster.
But dedicated accelerators.
Yeah, in interesting ways. I don't know. And of course, I'll have to review it. So I could tell you one program that's going to be guaranteed to work on any new hardware. That's LastPass. See there, right there, LastPass. The first thing I put on every new device. Just got a new phone. What did I do? I put LastPass on it. You know why? Because it makes it easier to log into everything, to set up the whole darn thing. Our show today brought to you by LastPass. LastPass is a timely thing to know and have during COVID-19. LastPass surveyed global IT decision makers, and almost everybody, 96% of organizations, said their remote workforce has impacted their identity and access management strategy. You've got workers at home. They have the keys to the kingdom in their little hands. Let's hope not on the Post-it notes that they took off their screen at work and brought home and put on their screen at home. Those are the logins to your bank accounts and your databases and your websites and all of that stuff. I hope they didn't do Post-it notes. If you were smart, if you'd had LastPass Enterprise, I guarantee you they didn't take anything home. They just went home and suddenly they're able to access all that securely, quickly, and easily. They can share passwords with other employees. That's important because you want to be able to do it, but you don't want to do it by text or email. You want to use it the secure way with LastPass. Makes it convenient and easy and secure. Employees will have their very own vault for storing every app and web login they use. I use it. It's so secure, and I trust it so much. I use it as my secure enclave for everything, even important documents like, well, when I traveled, I had my passport in there, so I'd always have a copy on every device. My driver's license, social security numbers, things I'm going to need access to. LastPass not only captures and fills every credential without disrupting your employee's workflow, it lets you enforce policies, things like two-factor and password minimum policies that make you more secure. Plus, your IT department will always get actionable insights into employee password behavior and they just released a new updated version of this admin dashboard. It's incredible. You can easily add and remove users. You can automate user management with directory integration. You see, and this is the most important from your point of view, who's using what company resources where. And you can make sure it's only the people who are allowed to. When user identities are centrally and securely managed, a business can be sure that the correct employee is doing the right thing, has the right access. And employees, this is the nice thing. It's a double virtue because employees like using LastPass. Our employees love it. They love it so much we make it a benefit of employment. You get your own LastPass personal account as well. LastPass's IAM solutions help businesses improve the employee experience and safeguard the business from cyber threats. With employees working at home, and most of our employees are, we are really glad we're on LastPass. You should be too. Let your remote workforce focus on their work without compromising your business's security. Secure your remote workforce with LastPass. Go to LastPass.com/twit to learn more. LastPass.com/twit. Okay, we did the Apple Silicon thing. I think we're going to have to start every show that way. Okay. Is it okay now? Is it okay? Is it safe? Is it safe? Let's talk.
I want to know what. So the 27-inch iMac came out, but the 21-inch didn't really get much of a push. So are we going to see a 21-inch like complete redesign with Apple Silicon at the end of this year?
24-inch, but I don't know if it's the end of this year. The Intel
24,
story
right,
for the 21-inch was not compelling.
I think
same way the 16-inch
Intel. I think it's over for Intel. I can't imagine they have a lot of Intel stuff in the pipeline.
Never say never. Like there's always a Hail Mary, but it doesn't seem like they have the people in place this time like they did with the Core series when they did their last big comeback.
Yeah. Now Apple is facing some, I think, reasonable challenges over the App Store. Actually, Russia just decided that the App Store is bad thing, is illegal. But I think there's reasonable concern among, it's Google and Microsoft, who both have essentially gaming stores that they can't put on iOS. And I think
I say it's worse than that though, because it's not a store. It's like it's a streaming service. It's like Netflix.
It's like Netflix.
Like I would understand if it was a store and it downloaded arbitrary code, and Apple's like, we want to make sure this code is safe. As far as I can tell, it downloads zero code. It streams pixels, and yes, you have a controller, but you have a controller for video. You can play and pause and fast forward and rewind. This is a more sophisticated controller, but the core dynamics of this seem no different to Spotify or Netflix or any other streaming service to me.
Now that's good news. Apple says they're not going to allow xCloud or Stadia, the two Google gaming services. They don't currently allow NVIDIA's GeForce Now streaming service
on iOS. Yeah,
on iOS, and they say that's because they offer access to apps that Apple can't review individually. So in that respect, it's more like a store. But Apple doesn't need to review Netflix content.
No, exactly. Netflix isn't a store of videos.
And it's the same, this may be the loophole Apple could use to save some face. Because honestly, look, Apple could say this. I don't think there's any legal challenge to it. But users may not like it. Users may not like it in droves, and that's the risk.
Say it now, especially with antitrust. The thing is, though, that Microsoft does not allow Stadia on Xbox. Like for me, they have no leg to stand on.
Yeah,
both Apple and Microsoft have Windows and Mac, which are open computing platforms, and they both have their controlled iPhone, iPad, and Xbox. And Google will, to their credit, they will allow all these services on all of their platforms. As long as you have Chrome, you are good to go, or whatever else, like an app. You can do whatever you want. Microsoft wants to yell at Apple, but they will not allow Stadia on Xbox. So I think you can make that a policy, but then just own the policy and take whatever pushback you get from it. The rest feels like sophistry.
There is face saving, though. Apple could say, oh, yeah, we thought about it. And it's just streaming. It's not an app.
They will, right? Like in 2 weeks of utter disaster, they'll say, but that's their thing. They're so careful. They think about it. They examine every repercussion. They measure 18 times before they cut. And while they're measuring, they just get excoriated, and rightly so, all over the media.
They allow remote access apps, right?
Local ones.
They have. I don't know if the Set app is now available on iOS. It's apps instead of games, but like that's.
I don't think this is going to stand.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were talking about this today on iOS Today. This is brand new. So SetApp's been available for quite a while on the Macintosh. You pay one monthly subscription, and you get a bunch of apps. That's part of it.
And they're good. I want to point out, SetUp is fantastic.
Yeah,
there are some amazing apps.
They're good apps. Clean My Mac X, iStat Menus, Bartender, Downy, I guess it's still available on the Mac.
And
Ulysses.
You can't get from the Mac App Store as well. Like you can't get iStat, you can't get Downy on the Mac App Store.
So that's never been a problem on the Mac.
Onto your Mac.
Gemini 2, which I love, and you download the app. Yeah. So it really isn't. It's kind of a rental store, I guess, on the Mac.
Yeah, I know. The one thing that I wonder though is maybe because of how many apps are available, maybe Apple actually does.
They can vet them all.
Research of the vetting, right? Which is the thing that they're saying is why they won't let Xbox.
So this is the news that they're now offering the same thing that you'd get on the Mac for iOS, but it's weird because the way you do it is you have to scan a QR code, so you can download the app, and then to get the in-app purchase effectively, the subscription, which all of these apps use, you scan a QR code and the app goes, oh, yeah, never mind.
That's clever, though.
It's clever. It's a direct violation of Apple guidelines. Like, literally.
Well, Apple approved it, so...
Okay,
doesn't mean anything though, because the review one of the biggest problems they have still is that the review process is totally removed, and this was supposed to be fixed. But the reviewers would review something, like would prove something, it would get featured by the editors, and then the higher ups in review go, "Oh no, that really should never have been on the platform. Just remove that."
I predicted, and I hope I'm wrong, but I predicted on iOS Today that we would not have this app next week to kick around. But
it's such a self-own every time.
Yeah, but I on the other hand, I really think Apple has no leg to stand on in blocking xCloud and Stadia, and I think xCloud on the iPad is a very exciting proposition. I think there's a lot of users that would like to see that. We don't want to be limited to arcade, and unfortunately, it looks like Apple's saying, well, it could be, in their heads, it competes with arcade, so that's the real reason.
Arcade doesn't stream, and like some people are saying it's not going to be a good experience, and Apple doesn't want to have bad experiences. But they never said that, and they put YouTube on a 2G iPhone.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take any of that excuse either.
It really is interesting. So, and this is, I think, it's a blurred line because I could see how Apple would say, well, that's an app we can't vet. But it isn't an app. The app is not running on your iPad or your iPhone.
Right, yes.
It is running on a server. All you're seeing is a streaming view of that app.
It's a huge threat to App Store revenue, I think is what it distills down to.
Is that the problem? This is, by the way, the future of, I believe, of computing is streaming.
Yes.
So
it's the future of
that may be why they drew that line in the sand. Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is right. It's not just there are two aspects of this. One of which is that this is an awesome service for people who have an iPad or an iPhone. The ability to run like top tier console apps, console games on your nice little iPad. That is such a benefit to consumers. And the other thing here is that exactly right. There is absolutely no reason that Apple has for denying this app. It doesn't compromise the security of the device. It's in terms of not wanting the user to have a bad experience. Well, you don't get to do that. If you gave me this $1,000 iPhone for free, you could do that. You could say that, well, the reason why we give it to you for free is so that we can make sure we can control your experience, because it is, after all, not your iPhone. It's my iPhone. It's our iPhone. But no, I paid $1,000 for this. This is my damn iPhone. If I want to run this service on it, I should be able to do that. And the fact that streaming games is very, very much the future of gaming, that everybody's trying to get in on this, not because it's a buzzword, but because this is an incredibly cool way to get to expand your library of access to gaming and other titles, but also to bring it to lower powered devices that maybe I can't if I can't afford like the latest even the last gen game console, but I do have a 3-year-old iPhone that is plenty fast enough to stream this game. That is a huge value for me. So yeah, Apple hasn't a leg to stand on. Now I will say, just to clarify something that to tack on to something that Rene said earlier, it's at least Microsoft has the credible argument that, look, you are playing this on a game console. Why you're not going to get as good an experience streaming this game from, even if it is from a third party, as you will actually playing it locally. But yeah, that is something to talk about. But again, the Apple has a requirement here to give not a vague sort of App Store guidelines, particularly in the face of all the testimony that they had to give just 2 weeks ago. They have to explain point blank, no, we are absolutely not trying to get people to buy titles so we can create a 30% discount, a 30% spiff off of every single title. We are legitimately concerned about the future of the platform and the experience that people are going to have, and they haven't had that argument yet.
Anthony Nielsen is pointing out in our chat room that Apple has Sony's PS4 Remote Play in its App Store, Shadow PC in its App Store. They do effectively the same thing, stream games from other sources.
I think those actually stream from like you actually have to. But no, you're right. I think that from your PlayStation. You're right. Yeah.
Gardner says, and I think Gardner says it in a nutshell very nicely, Apple's statement they're protecting customers is simply false on its face. This is entirely about protecting Apple's revenue stream. They're not.
So I don't think that's true. Like, I think that they would be able to get a deal with Microsoft, with almost anybody, to put the service on. It would be a negotiation. And some people have said they're trying to use this as a bargaining chip to get Windows on ARM licensing for the Silicon Macs.
Oh.
You know, they're going to hold a line at this until Microsoft agrees to that. And, you know, who knows? These companies are huge.
What do they want from
Google?
Google?
Almost like Game of Thrones.
A cut in the amount they give Google for search.
But with Apple, mostly when people think it's about money, it ends up being about control, because they don't necessarily care as much about the dollar today as the $300 million tomorrow. And this is a moving to streaming, like you said, with SetApp. I think just like what happened with news and with video and with music, we used to buy CDs. Now we get all the music for $10. We used to buy DVDs. Now we get all the movies for $10. It's going to happen to games. It's going to happen to apps. It's going to fundamentally change the economy of all these mobile platforms. And they just don't seem to want to deal with that right now.
Well, we've been talking a lot about this on Windows Weekly, because I'm of the opinion, and we'll see, what happens, that the future of a lot of computing is streaming. So, for instance, I think this is one of the reasons Microsoft has changed the way it does business. Their money was in selling a desktop operating system and selling apps to go on it, Microsoft Office chiefly. That was their entire revenue in the 90s. But that's changing, and I think they see a world in future, especially in business. Business still buys PCs with Windows on it, but ultimately it's turning out to be more of a nightmare than it's worth, between ransomware, failed upgrades, maintenance. All of this stuff is just a pain in the ass. I think what business really wants is, and I think what they will buy in their next computer, it's certainly what we're looking at buying for our editors, is a thin client or a thinner client that's running software in the cloud. That Windows will be running on Microsoft's Azure service. The apps will running on an Azure service.
Scott McNeely is finally right.
Yeah, the network is the PC. And you'll be renting all of that stuff. That's a much easier management scenario for most small businesses.
And more affordable for most people now, given they don't want 3 apps anymore. They want access to 1 million apps and 1,000 games. And
the time has finally come, because we have enough bandwidth, and it's reliable enough, I think, to do that. The cloud has proven that, and I think that's the next step in the cloud, is not just data, but cloud as a service, apps as a service.
Cloud compute, yeah.
So that's my point, and I think you got it right away, Rene, which is this is a battle Apple's fighting right now, because they see a bigger war in the future, which is
they're not ready for it right now. At least they're not publicly ready.
They don't have these services.
Yeah.
So although I have to point out, they could be very ready. Apple Silicon could really make a very attractive thin client with great battery life.
The services side, they'd
have to be buying it from Microsoft.
Could become a subscription service. It could become a streaming service.
Apple's not ready to make Mac OS a streaming service.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest problem is that Apple makes its money off of hardware. And if you're saying that the hardware is now completely insignificant, it is just right. That the ability. One of the most exciting things about having an iPad is the ability to stream not games but stream an instance of Windows. The idea that there are an iPad will do me just fine for 90% of what I want to do with productivity, but there are still one or two apps that I would like to still have access to. I will happily spend $10 a month to a streaming service so that I can have a remote Windows desktop where I install all my software on it via an app store. I've virtually downloaded into the machine, and the ability if Apple now says that not only are you not going to be able to not only is this a world in which it doesn't really matter if people spend the extra 30%, 40% it would cost to get premium Apple hardware, but also the 30%, buying apps through the App Store is also not going to be important because I can buy my apps almost anywhere. That is a scary thing for Apple to contemplate, even if you are sitting on that much money.
Can you imagine the ad though? You have two kids in the back of a car, and one kid is trying to play xCloud or Stadia, and it's like it's not streaming. Other kid's like, I downloaded my games on Apple Arcade. That's how Apple should be handling this.
Yeah,
make it a competitive product issue and not a policy issue.
That's only.
And I think we got that statement about review because of oversight.
That's a holding action. That's only good for the next few years.
The other kid would, if it were commercial for anybody else, the other kid would say, "Oh yeah, well, I only have to get permission from Mom. You have to get permission from Mom and Tim Cook."
Tim Cook looks too cuddly. That'd be a hard sell.
So this is the germane section of the Apple Store guidelines. That really is what this is all coming down to. Section 4.2.7, remote desktop clients. And this is what Apple allows and does not allow. If your remote desktop app acts as a mirror of specific software or services, rather than a generic mirror of the host device, like a remote PC would be, it must comply with the following. So this is what Stadia and xCloud have to comply with. The app must only connect to a user-owned host device that is a personal computer or dedicated game console owned by the user. Well, that's why this Sony PlayStation app works, because it's your PlayStation. Both the host device and client must be connected on a local and LAN-based network. So strike one. Any software services appearing in the client, i.e. on the iOS device, are fully executed on the host device, rendered on the screen of the host device. What? What if it doesn't have a screen? And may not use APIs or platform features beyond that which is required to stream. So they just don't want to have a hybrid situation where the iPad's running some of the software and the streaming devices. I don't know about the screen thing because no cloud server has a screen.
They're all headless.
Yeah, they're all headless. All account creation and management must be initiated from the host device. See, that means you'd have to set Stadia. I guess you could do that. Although I don't know why Apple would insist on that, because they're going to lose their cut. If you bought Stadia through the App Store, they'd get 30% of it. But anyway, they're saying, nope, can't buy it from us. You got to buy it from the host device. Wait a minute, who's the host device? The host? No, the host device is out there, is the cloud. So they're saying it has to be done through Microsoft or Google. The UI appearing on the client, the iOS thing, does not resemble an iOS or App Store view, does not provide a store-like interface, or include the ability to browse, select, or purchase software not already owned or licensed by the user. For the sake of clarity, I understand why they want to do this. They don't want somebody to set up a store, basically. For the sake of clarity, transactions taking place within mirrored software do not need to use in-app purchase, provided the transactions are processed on the host device. So that's actually good for Stadia and xCloud. Thin clients... This is the final one. Thin clients for cloud-based apps are not appropriate for the App Store.
Yeah, they've never wanted you to make an app that was just a WebKit holder for a web site. They'd much rather you just load that in a browser.
I have a terminal program that I run on my iPad that I access my server here. That's, as far as I can tell, a thin client. So that's another complaint we hear a lot from developers. These rules are applied inconsistently.
That particular last part was because there was a ton of apps at one point that were literally just websites that were wrapped in a I forget what was UI WebView back in the day,
right?
And they were put out and they were like a bunch of junk and crank apps.
Even
Facebook,
like
and they didn't want low value. They wanted you to make an app that you needed to be an app. Like you could not do what you needed to do in a WebView.
I agree with that. But in fact, I am using my iPad, and I like using my iPad as a thin client, because I run Emacs, and I can't run Emacs on my iPad. I run Emacs on my server, or VS Code, or a lot of coding stuff I run on my server, but I can do it on iPad, which is great. It adds huge value to me for the iPad, especially now that I have the keyboard and trackpad. That's a real computer now.
I do that with screens and with my Mac when I don't want to get. When I'm too lazy to get up.
Yeah. So this inherently is these rules are inherently contradictory. Isn't a web browser a thin client?
Yeah, no, that's a stretch.
It's using.
I mean, it is a container for JavaScript code, and that is an interesting point.
When I'm running Gmail on my browser.
Yeah. See, this now we're getting into, is a burrito a sandwich?
Yes.
Questions
hot
here,
dog or not hot dog? Yeah.
Where there's an obvious answer, which is no, it isn't. But okay, fine. Let's smoke some weed and talk about the existential nature of what defines a sandwich anyway.
This is the real problem with making rules in the App Store. This is fundamentally the real problem.
Unforeseen.
Yeah, and it's just it's like the same problem with making laws, I guess. What Apple needs is a court, because that's why the court system exists. The legislators write a law, it's enacted, and then it's up to the courts to figure out what the hell they meant.
Yeah, but
the App Store lawyers today argued in front of the Supreme Court.
But that shows what a blind spot that Apple has. That we were all talking about. Oh, isn't it nice that Apple announced that developers now have the ability to sort of appeal a decision? But that was the EU forced them to do that, there's definitely a problem that Apple has just dogmatically with how they run the App Store. And I don't know what it is, but it needs solving, because this has always been, I was talking about this on the radio the other day, that there's only one aspect of Apple, one only, where if there is some sort of a controversy, I don't think that, oh, well, geez, let's wait and see exactly like how all this plays out, because it could be a very complicated issue. The only issue in which I'm thinking, if I hear that, oh, there's a controversy or an issue of someone that has a problem, where I immediately go to, okay, Apple has either done something evil or done something incompetent, it's the App Store. That's the only area in which I don't simply do a wait and see. Apple has such a bad track record managing the App Store and doing things that are just arbitrary and don't seem to be aware of the effects that you have on a developer when you suddenly pull all of their apps for an entire day without a single word. They need to be more intimidated and more impressed with the level of responsibility that they have in running the App Store.
And yet, App Store is probably the thing driving most of the revenue in services, right? And certainly the revenue growth. Yep. And Alex Lindsay, were he here, he'll be back someday. He's still on assignment. But Alex Lindsay, were he here, would say, well, that's the price you pay for getting access to iOS users. And Apple built this amazing thing. It's like saying to the manager of a mall, you built the mall, but I want to do whatever the hell I want. I'm not going to pay you rent to be in your mall.
No. That I feel as though if that's Apple's attitude, that's an arrogant point of view. If the developer community spoke with one voice and said that, oh, we're sorry, we don't want to sully your beautiful, perfect platform with our apps. We're going to let you create every app that's out there, or let your users just use web apps.
Good point.
Again, we apologize. We apologize.
So Apple is not the only only entity that added value to the App Store. In fact, you probably could argue it's the third-party developers that really made the App Store valuable.
Yeah, I think you could add, I think it would be fair to say that Apple deserved in the beginning, because it was, and people forget this, because there's the opposite of rose-colored glasses is, turdy-colored glasses, that Apple really did change things. From my Palm OS days and CrackBerry days and all that, it was a fundamental shift. and they have been rewarded for that richly. But I think, like, I don't know how long a patent takes to expire, or I think that after a period of time, your ability to withdraw wealth from that innovation should diminish. Like, it should gradually decrease. And certainly 10 years later, there should be a pause and a reimagination of what that relationship should be.
Yeah, I think it's time to do that. I think that's really what we're saying. Is it's time Apple to rethink this. And
the world has changed.
You're really coming up against, and I don't think it's the EU or Russia. What you're coming up against is going to be users who are going to say, but I want xCloud. I want Stadia.
I think the xCloud thing is probably going to be the real moment of change or digging heels in for Apple, because this is such a huge platform. The other platforms that have tried to exist on iOS that haven't made it, they're not as big, and I think here's a moment where like the public, the world is really going to like tidal wave their opinions on this, and Apple will either decide, okay, we'll make some changes, or they're going to like really be stubborn and not let it happen. And then we're going to see people legitimately saying, I'm switching off of Apple, and for reals, not just making that claim and not doing it, but actually doing it.
That's really...
The thing I said up until now is that there's never been, like, if you want to tell me the App Store is broken, then show me the app that Google Play allows that could just never work on the App Store and is truly transformative. And you can't, because Instagram, Lyft, all these apps, they came first and were often better. And then now that app is here. Like, these sorts of apps are here. These are the apps that people are going to care about and simply cannot operate on the App Store. And I think that's the point where Apple has to redecide the App Store.
I'll just say, I'm going to buy a Galaxy Fold 2 so I can play xCloud.
Is it a sandwich, Leo?
Well, see, but
it's a hot dog.
but that is an interesting point. That if we consider that there is a certain percentage of customers out there for whom the advances at all levels of mobile phones has elevated just the table stakes for almost any phone you can buy over $400, and that for so many people the difference the phone is just a medium for running Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and the individual social media apps that they actually use. That does become a vulnerability for Apple when if a small thing like someone walks into a phone store, they've been using they suddenly have a friend that's using a streaming gaming app, and they say, "Oh, that's a really great app. I really love it. We can play together like illegally in school." And it's time to buy a new phone, and they realize that for $500 or $600 they can buy phone A that will run that gaming app, phone B made by Apple that does not run that gaming app. And they see them as fundamentally equivalent sort of pieces of hardware. That is a thing that will push people to a decision towards Android, and Apple does not want to do that.
Yeah. Actually, the real reason I'm going to buy the Galaxy Fold is for years, as a chess player, I would carry a chess wallet.
Yes.
Which was almost exactly the dimensions of the Galaxy Fold. And you open it up, and it's a chess set. And all I can do is look at the Fold and say, that would make such a great portable chess set. That is pathetic.
So you think that, and Joanna Stern puts a hot dog in the middle. There's a very wide range.
It's pathetic.
Requirements fulfilled.
I'm going back and forth on this for a couple of weeks. But
Mystic Bronze, though, right, Leo?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I'm not buying the beans. Color.
Actually, they're so cute.
So Samsung had a big event last week, and that's what we're talking about. And they announced in Samsung Galaxy Note 20, the Note 20 Ultra, which are, as far as I can tell, in no way different from the Note 10. So I'm pushing those aside, or the S20 or the S.
The camera bump is bigger.
It's a huge camera bump. It's the size of a domino, Lexi Savides.
It's the size of the original iPhone.
Said, yeah. Yes, exactly. They announced a new watch, which actually I think might give the Apple Watch a run for the money. They announced but said, but unfortunately we don't have FDA approval for the ability to do both blood oxygen monitoring and blood pressure, and they are going to do ECG. They do have approval for that. They say they hope to get approval and be able to ship those sometime next year. That's intriguing. It's now a watch with a round face and a turning bezel that does many of the things that people buy Apple Watches for. So I think that's going to be interesting. It's also Apple Watch prices starts at $400.
It's great to see some competition in the wearable space.
Well,
the premium
Android
wearable
Wear.
space. There is none. Right.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is Tizen. This is not Android Wear. This is Samsung's own operating system, and Samsung has slowly. I've always liked the Samsung watches. They've slowly improved these to the point where I'm now thinking that looks pretty good. And they're doing earbuds, and they're smart because they're trying to differentiate. They're not like everybody else making a clone of AirPods or AirPod Pros, but they're making it looks like the Bean in Chicago.
They should have called them Beans. They should have called them Galaxy Beans. It would have been so beautiful.
And it goes in your ear, but the idea is it's super comfortable to wear for a whole day.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go in your ear. It's actually more of a surface thing, which means it doesn't do a great job of background noise reduction, noise canceling.
And they have colors. They have actual colors.
Mystic Bronze. I don't think I'm going to get those. Because
it's so glam, Leo. You have to your phone will reflect off your ears and it'll make like a laser show.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely thinking it might be time for the Fold. Definitely and might don't go together. I understand.
That was the most interesting thing I saw.
That's how equivocal I am about this. But I think it might be time for a folding platform.
With a pretentious unfold, Leo. Every beginning of every show, you must pretentiously unfold it.
Oh, believe me, if I spend $2,000 to $3,000, we don't know what the price is going to be. $2,000 to $3,000 on this phone. I am opening it everywhere. Let me just see what the chess move is here. Oh, yes, that's good.
I said good day, sir. Slap.
Good day. I said good day, sir.
That's the thing I still miss about flip phones. Yep.
It is kind of monstrously thick. They have put a decent sized phone on the front though now. So I don't know.
You're trading width for thickness, Leo. That's what you do with every foldable, from wallets to books to everything.
Yeah. Well, look at the crazy wallet case I mentioned.
I was just going to say the thickness of your wallet case is about as thick as the phone, so you're used to it. You'll be fine.
That's why I did it. I want to get used to it. And this side does nothing, but I've got it, and that's the key. No, actually, I realized, why am I carrying a wallet and a phone? I've always wanted a decent wallet for my phone, and this one seems to work pretty well for the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And it's got a little rubber thing that closes it, which I kind of
It's got an orange belt. It's working its way up the ranks.
Well, you would like this, Rene. They sell different color accessorized belts. So I have 4 different colors depending on my mood.
I need to spend more money on accessories.
I am in a way kind of ready. This is no thicker than a Fold 2 will be, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope it's tantalizing to think about Apple already having built probably non-functional prototypes of what they would design-wise, what would they do with a folding phone or would they call it a folding iPhone or a folding iPad? Either way, if they had a version of the Mac Mini that I could fold and pocket, oh boy, would I be on that quickly. That is such an enticing idea.
Yeah. They're right, though. It's not ready yet, right? I think we still have a ways to go.
It is. I think it is on a certain level like the $10,000 Apple Watch.
Yep.
Where at the time when we weren't ridiculing it, we're talking about, well, there are people that have that kind of money where it's okay for them to spend $2,000 on something that will fail in 6 months, or they're not going to get 5 years of life out of it. They like it, they want it, it's interesting to them. And actually, I do know a lot of people who aren't like in the $10,000 Apple Watch tax bracket who do have a folding Samsung, because they were the story of one of them was that I bought it prepared to just like return it because I just wanted to play with it and see what it was like, and then it was the day I was supposed to box it up and I just couldn't because I just liked it too much.
Let's see. Let me think. Okay, that's enough of this.
Yes.
We see the problem. Apple's going to have to address this at some point, right?
Yes.
That's the issue.
And this might be the changing point.
This might be the inflection point that they've been waiting for.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's time to talk TikTok.
Can you tell us what TikTok is? Because I need to be one of the kids.
What is the TikTok?
Hey, wait a minute.
I saw Devin Legal on YouTube try to explain it, and he had like the full backwards hat and skateboard on. It was amazing.
Exactly. Let me tell you. I need to turn my cap thusly, and now I can talk about what the kids are. Actually, I do have a skateboard over there, so I can do the whole like Steve Buscemi. Hello, fellow youths.
Yeah.
When Alex was here, he was singing its praises, right? He's got the 2 kids doing it. He loves the TikTok, and I see from his point of view exactly why. It is a really great creative platform, especially if, like Alex Lindsay, you can bring the technology skills of Lucasfilm.
You can bring ILM
to the TikTok. But ultimately, what's really interesting about TikTok, and I admit it's addictive for me, and I have to put it aside because I'll waste hours looking at it, is that it attracts a new kind of creator doing a new kind of thing. We saw it with Vine. It's much of the charm that Vine had. And I honestly think it's a great medium, and it's great. And I don't understand, if I have TikTok on my phone, why I'm giving the Chinese government any leg up over, say, what I've given the American government with Facebook. I don't know what the
American
threat
government, Leo.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
What's the threat model?
Pompeo saying, "Oh well, don't put TikTok on your phone unless you want all your personal information to go directly into the hands of the Chinese Communist Party."
Well, and that may be the case on Android, but on iPhone, if I look at the permissions, it's not exfiltrating anything that I don't want it to. Certainly not my web history, which people say it takes.
Well, also that's not the case anywhere. The argument is, I think it's part of the ongoing culture war between the United States government and China, because it is a Chinese-owned company, and so technically speaking, any Chinese company is subject to Chinese national security laws, which essentially says that, hey, if we ask you to help us with an investigation, you're going to give us what we ask for, no questions, no talkbacks. But the thing is, every time, and that is something that comes into play when you think about any Chinese-owned company. I will certainly allow that, but you have to look at exactly how this company is operating, and they are operating like every other social network that wants to have a presence in China, which is that they have one server in China that operates all of their Chinese users, so that to comply with local laws, and then they have another server for everybody else in Virginia, and that operates the entire rest of the world. And yes, the CEO, you can sort of like sigh when the CEO says, "Oh, if the Chinese government ever asked us to commit espionage on our users, we would absolutely flatly say no." You have to file that away as, okay, that's what the CEO says. But recently, the Chinese government cracked down on the Hong Kong protesters by instituting even more draconian security laws in Hong Kong. And TikTok did exactly the same thing that every other social network did, which is that they withdrew from Hong Kong so that they would not be required to comply with any Chinese orders to basically commit a dangerous act against its users in Hong Kong. Security researchers have been investigating very closely what TikTok is doing with its data, and they've determined that it doesn't do anything worse than what any other social network does. So yes, it does siphon off a lot of data off of your phone, but that's the problem with social networks in general, not Chinese-owned ones. And finally, the only thing that one researcher was able to find in terms of surveillance was kind of subtle. That there's censorship laws that apply to their operations in China. That, of course, the government means that if you talk about their chairman as comparing to Winnie the Pooh, that is not going to fly on any Chinese social network. That is one of the things that's censored, like Tibet, like all these other like the Tiananmen Square massacre, all that stuff. You can try to type it in, but it will not appear on the service. Apparently, one thing that they're doing is that internationally, or at least in the United States, if two United States users were to swap a piece of content that would have been flagged and illegal in China, and the Chinese server is not aware of the existence of this piece of media, like let's say it's a brand new Reddit meme, then that content will still be allowed to pass between those two users. However, the checksum of that image will be added to the database in China of stuff that Chinese servers will not allow to go through. So that's the only thing that any researcher, as far as I know, has been able to find in terms of doing any kind of surveillance on individual United States users. So to wrap up, it's just there's nothing to indicate that TikTok is any sort of security threat above and beyond just being a social network that runs on a phone.
And incidentally, this executive order, which says beginning September 20th, no transactions between the parent company ByteDance and any American entity, including you. So effectively, it cuts off their oxygen supply from the United States. It's not just for TikTok. It's also for WeChat. And CNET brought up an interesting point. They feel like because WeChat is so important in China, it's important here for Chinese Americans, people with family in China, but it's like really important in China. They can actually impact iPhone shipments by as much as 30% globally. So
it depends on one of the big problems of these two executive orders is that it uses this really, really vague sentence and saying
it declares a national emergency, which I think is overstating the case.
No, absolutely, and that's one of the weaknesses that TikTok is playing to sue them for. But the situation is that it said that this vague thing about interactions with entities, which could mean as far as not only would Apple be forced to remove WeChat and TikTok from its own app store, would also have to remove it from international app stores. And not only would it affect TikTok, but would also involve any company that is owned or invested in by ByteDance and Tencent. The thing is that they put a 45-day grace period on this, and the order says that only after 45 days will the Secretary of Commerce actually define what interactions are actually covered by this executive order. So this is they've created what has to be an intentional state of absolute chaos here, which they could have avoided by simply saying that we are ordering that these two apps not be allowed to be sold or distributed in the United States of America. They chose not to do that.
They also, and this is TikTok is reportedly going to sue them, and maybe as soon as today. They haven't yet filed suit, but reportedly in the lawsuit, one of the things they'd say is, "All right, where's the findings? Show us the evidence that we're nefarious. You can't just ban something because you don't like it."
Potential nefariosity, Leo. That is what the basis of this is.
And I think I understand it's complicated. I'm not a fan of what the Chinese government does to its citizens. I'm not a fan of locking kids in cages
and the Great
either.
Wall, where American social networks are blocked from within China, which is not a precedent you want to.
Just because they do it to us doesn't mean we should do it to them. That's kind of childish. I also think that it's reasonable to say, look, we're not going to use Huawei gear in critical infrastructure like 5G. I think that that's reasonable. That's prudent.
There's a legal issue here, though, too, and that is they're not banning behavior, which is how these orders usually are handled. They're targeting specific companies. They're not saying it is illegal to do this with data, which would be fine because then TikTok couldn't do it, Facebook couldn't do it.
Yeah, there's some privacy issues. Damn straight.
Yes.
Let's fight it. Let's figure that one out.
But they are targeting companies, not behavior.
They're not even targeting companies. I think they're targeting people. They're targeting the Chinese people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really what's going on, and I think that's reprehensible.
Or the K-pop stans who have been causing mischief.
Well, if the president could figure out a way to ban K-pop, I think he would. But
the K does stand for Korea.
Yeah. Ostensibly an ally. So it's also going to, now this is interesting, and I don't know if this is the case, but it affects apparently any video game Tencent has a stake in as well.
See, they've said no, but they've only said no. And you don't get to interpret laws by what some backroom politician tells you in a whisper ceremony after the poorly written thing is released. It's only going to be adjudicated based on the poorly written thing. So people are saying, oh, no, don't worry about the games. I heard, the White House staffers have told me that's not a problem.
So League of Legends, 100% owned by Tencent.
All of Riot.
Epic Games, 40% owned by Riot. That's Fortnite. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, 11% owned by Bluehole, which is Tencent. Tencent.
The new Top Gun movie is financed by Tencent.
Tencent is huge.
They own a big
technology company that owns lots
of games. Supercell.
Oh, lots of stuff, period.
Yeah, lots of stuff. Actually, that's right. And this is part of the bigger issue is you start banning China. I don't know what you have left. This is, who go make their iPhone now? And all the stuff that goes in the iPhone.
It's not the hardware that's a problem because the hardware is such an integral, and I say this, you can never predict the Chinese government, but the amount of GDP that Apple's business brings to especially southern China is very high. And one of the things the Chinese government does fear is if they hurt the economy. Like they can do a lot of things as long as the economy is strong, but retaliating on Apple services because Google's not there, retaliating on Apple services like iTunes and the App Store and things like that, that doesn't hurt China at all.
They certainly were willing to retaliate on the NBA, although I have to say they've shown a little more reticence than we have to go after American companies. So I think that's certainly a potential specter. But who knows what the Chinese government will do? Just on the face of it, it doesn't seem like a good policy. And I have to say, it hurts me because I feel like there's some amazing, creative, wonderful stuff done by young Americans on TikTok, and I think it's a shame that
if you force it to sell to Twitter, like Twitter will just cancel it, and Microsoft will rewrite it in .NET, which is effectively canceling it. It's just like that's not.
Yeah, I don't know, know. And
well, the other. There's lots of. You also have to consider because of the current tone of our current White House, you have to also reflect on the fact that the usership of TikTok is 32% teenagers. Another 29% is people 20 to 30. And given that we have an election coming up, shutting down one of the biggest social networks for young people to communicate messages, to communicate political related sort of content, shutting that down would certainly help one political party and not the other, shall we say. And it's also remember in Tulsa last month or the month before when Trump was like, oh, we've got a million requests for invitations for tickets to my big political rally in Tulsa. We're actually going to have overflow in the parking lot. And it was like the event happened. It was just like crickets. They basically had just a monkeys concert with only half of the monkeys appearing. And one of the reasons for that was that there was a concerted TikTok bit of tomfoolery campaign saying, "Hey, everybody, let's all request tickets to this event and not go." So there might be some retaliation involved as part of the mentality here.
We'll see what happens.
One thing that I find to be
yes, Laura.
Sorry.
One thing I find to be kind of disconcerting about this situation is the fact that with an executive order on, September 15th or whenever it is, using TikTok will effectively be illegal. So
is that the case? You can't use it?
Well, we don't know because the executive order is so vague.
I mean, but I know that if
that's what that means, then the individual, which is you and I, using TikTok, that becomes illegal, So
well, that's weird. Do you think it would be?
I don't think so, but I think the whole executive order is going to be withdrawn.
I have to say,
totally
like
honest.
a lot of people, I downloaded TikTok and installed it just so I'd have it in case they banned it.
But that's the thing, though, is if the executive order, depending on what that wording means, you having it on your phone could be considered illegal,
right.
Which might be why Apple would actually not just have to remove it from the App Store, but would have to flip the switch to remove it from your phone. Which means that people who sideload it, because there's going to be people who are going to sideload it. This is Android too. We're talking about not just Apple.
I think they just kill the servers though. That's the simplest way to do it.
Yeah, but
they would great firewall it.
My point being that something that is ubiquitous that so many people use suddenly becomes something that you aren't allowed to by federal government law to use anymore. And that to me is a very scary stepping stone into the kind of sentiment that we talk about a lot of, well, I don't do anything wrong, so you can have access to all my data. Right. Well, guess what? TikTok could become illegal. And if you use it again after it becomes illegal, you're doing something wrong. So now all of this tracking of us and everything that we do, to me, this is this sort of like really big red flag of what it actually means to let organizations have access to all of our personal data, because things that we don't think are a big deal now, out of the blue, might become illegal in 45 days.
Timing's weird, too, because we just called up all these big tech companies and criticized them for monopoly and stuff. And now, the biggest competitor and so to both Facebook and Twitter out there right now, we don't want that one. I can't decide who's who's being favored and who's not being favored.
Remember when we thought this was going to be a boring summer?
Yeah. Instagram has released a TikTok clone called Reels. Perfect timing.
The algorithm, though, TikTok always gives me something. Almost always gives me something I want to keep watching, where Instagram just does not.
No. Although, I think some of that comes with you got to build up an audience. Reels has tools people like. TikTok's even saying we'll help our creators move to another platform if we don't want them to be disadvantaged by this executive order.
A lot of the big YouTubers all came from Vine when that was shut down. Like for good and
Twitter easily killed Vine by just saying no, we're not going to share revenue. Bye. So I don't.
If Microsoft were to buy it, I think that this is such TikTok is such a jewel, and it is such a completely missing component of Microsoft's business. I feel as though they would simply take over their servers and try to run it as directly as possible, while also forcing you to switch. Maybe forcing you to switch to a Skype sign-in, but it's
God.
And then making you take a different username.
Yeah. So has anybody tried Reels? I haven't tried it.
Yeah, I didn't post any, but I tried making some. And it's fun. Like they really copied the TikTok secret to success was that you could easily create really compelling video, and then the algorithm would gain you an incredible audience. And they managed to clone the instantly create compelling video part really, really well. They had a good blueprint. They followed it. Same like they did with stories and Snapchat.
Yeah, you just steal it.
It's such a scary thing because there are a lot of people who are now creating successful businesses based on a YouTube presence, based on a TikTok presence, based on a Twitch presence, and there are some superstars that would be wooed from one platform to another with exclusivity and signing bonuses. But a lot of the people who are doing very well, making let's say $80,000 to $150,000 a year, are like, well, guess what? If TikTok goes away, that was your connection to all of your audience. You're going to have to rebuild from the ground up and hope that as a mid-tier sort of internet celebrity, internet influencer, that someone, as soon as people go to the brand new version of TikTok, they don't find someone who is a direct replacement for the content that you are creating. And if you are mid-tier, there's always that risk that, you mean that someone is giving makeup? Did I hear that right? Makeup tips on I've got to check this. I have never heard of someone giving makeup and fashion tips on a social network before. So it's a scary thing to suddenly on one area be on top of the world, and then on the other end suddenly even if you've gotten an agent who's setting up brand sponsorships anymore, suddenly has to resell you all over again on a brand new network because you've had the rug pulled out from under you. What a weird economy that we've created here.
It's happened actually in India, where TikTok was banned along with some other Chinese apps because, of course, there's a border dispute between India and China. TikTok did set up a $200 creators fund. TikTok, I think, makes a lot of money on advertising, and brands love TikTok. Creators, though, and can now participate. In fact, TikTok has announced its first payments going to 3 creators.
I'm glad David Dobrik is getting some form of support in these hard times.
You as a YouTuber probably know these
Canadian
people.
Sarcasm is so beautiful because for a second
is he famous?
That he used that nice tone of voice that Canadians have.
Dobrik is a YouTube creator as well, right?
Yeah, one of the wealthiest in the world.
Oh, nice. Well, he's made some money. This is, the rich are going to get richer. If you're a big star on YouTube and you bring your audience to TikTok, TikTok's going to love you. You're going to get a chunk of the action. And you know what? David has the clout to demand that, right? That's what killed Vine. Is Twitter says, no, we're not giving you any money. They said, well, I guess we won't stick around. So David Dobrik, Brittany Tomlinson, Cheyenne Jazzwise, Justice Alexander, Michael Lee, Marissa Wren, and Ross Smith, 19 creators.
They think there's a lot of thoughts in the industry that it's going to move towards embedded advertising the way movies did. Like when Robert Downey Jr. picks up that Big Mac at the end of Iron Man, that because of the way the regulations are being handled, everything's going to be embedded advertising.
They're just going to skip right over podcasting and go straight to TikTok. Yeah. Thanks for all the fish.
Too, You'll be like, Lori, how did you enjoy your Big Mac for lunch?
Oh, we've been desperately trying. Well, we did sell studio naming rights, which I think we're the only podcast in history to sell studio naming rights.
But there's a bunch of YouTubers getting in trouble for not disclosing. I think it was primarily in Korea, but it's happened elsewhere where they don't disclose advertisers or they don't disclose.
Well, you have to in the U.S. The FTC.
And they ruin. you're supposed to, but every time they don't, it's another nail in that particular coffin. And so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
The line is really blurred now for advertising versus recommending a product because you like it, but actually the reason you like it is because it was sent to you for free.
It's not blurred.
It's
a very clear line. Yeah. If they send you a free product, you're getting paid. And the FTC is very clear on that. And people are getting away with it. As a content creator, they don't necessarily understand those rules, especially if you're just a young person who just, started your little Instagram page and suddenly you're really popular and now people are sending you stuff and you think it's really cool. It's definitely FTC has a document here, which they, by the way, have put in a suitable vertical format.
Yeah. Your fellow kids.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, we need a pamphlet for 20-year-olds. Can you
make it sideways?
Use that sort of really young font. Put things on a skew. No problem. I got the young person font. They're going to eat. But
we're very careful. We always put a hashtag sponsored or hashtag advertiser. Or if you're eating that Big Mac, Lori, you could say, "Boy, this delicious Big Mac from our sponsor, McDonald's, is really filling," or whatever. As keeping is how I stay slim. And
the M&M video has like a bunch of embedded ads, and they don't disclose that they're paid promotions at all. And so you see Hollywood getting away with it all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, not only that, but I'll sidetrack this for 30 seconds and no longer, I swear. But it's gotten so bad that
why change now, Andy? Just go ahead.
Oh, you
got your own siding.
You're right. It is kind of our brand. But it's fascinating to me that now we have because like so many sitcoms just live forever in like syndication and on streaming, that oftentimes when they sell it to like when it moves to a new service, they will actually remaster them and replace like the box of cornflakes with now a box of like sugar of Kasha cereal, because they decided that, hey, do you want placement in this episode of Friends, and they will now change out the products digitally.
We talked about that. Maybe you weren't here, Alex Lindsay. There's a term. What is the term for that? But Alex was talking about that. There's no such thing as a free lunch. We always did that at Tech TV. We'd put tape over any brand name.
But it's not just that. But again, I understand the idea of like if there's a at this point, like if someone is like, hey, oh my goodness, I haven't done my Purell yet. There's two brands and that debated for that. But the idea that again, if this is rerun 5 years from now, suddenly I'll be holding, I didn't spread my Heinz barbecue sauce all over my hands today. And it'll be a totally different product because they just digitally changed it in this existing sort of thing.
They call it Greeking. That's fascinating. They call it Greeking.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what they do is they take the alphabet and they make it look, looks like it's real writing, but it's not. It's Greek.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
It was just
we talked about that.
I love how weird the world is. Again, my sleep schedule has been super wacky for the past month or so. So I was up at like 4 a.m. now, just saying I can't get to sleep. Let me go through let me at least look through every single documentary that's on Hulu. And I found a documentary on influencers, and it was fascinating to me because the tagline was or the cut line was, the pressures of fame for these new generation of Instagram influencers, and it was all like the first 20 minutes was people I have never heard of in my life. Yeah. And then I will look at their Instagram tag, and it turns out they don't have like 8 million followers. They have 150 million followers. And they're like, oh, it's just so much responsibility that, I can't, it's really tough that I'm going out and I can't be anonymous anymore. And I'm like, dude, you have 150,000 followers. It's like you're only 10 times more famous than I am on Instagram. Why are you? And again, no, it's these, that's why I was thinking about these sort of mid-tier people who can make a very decent living and not have to have an external place of employment, but nonetheless, they are just like hand over hand on a rope bridge, because as soon as somebody decides to shake one end of that rope, they are in the middle of the air, and that is such a weird thing.
When I watch my favorite guilty pleasure, which is a reality show about yachting.
I forgot that one.
The drama of yachting.
I know the drama of yachting below deck. Lisa and I did a calculation. We've watched 83 episodes of it. I'm embarrassed.
King of the world, Lisa.
But I always know when there's a product placement because it's not Greeked. They blur out anything, but if I see a label or a logo, and then at the end it says, promotional consideration provided by, and there's all the labels you see. You always
remember
know.
CBS had Microsoft PCs before Surface was ever announced. They had like this Microsoft logo on the back of all their computers.
Yeah. You always know. I love it when it's obviously an Apple laptop, but strategically placed. There's a little sticker.
The most hysterically funny example of this was Parks and Recreation, where it's like Pawnee, Indiana is the only town in which, oh my God, who wants an iPhone when I can have my Windows phone? And iPad, I'm going to use my Microsoft Surface. It's like, and it almost fit in with like the image of Pawnee, Indiana as this really bizarre community, because it's like, my God, I have never seen. This is the first time and only time I've ever seen somebody using a Windows phone in the wild when I was not at some sort of a Microsoft office or event.
Yeah. There was Steve Martin, whose 75th birthday is coming up, by the way. There's his first appearance on Letterman, and I think it was when Letterman was at the morning show, but he shows up like Andy in his jammies. I just woke up, his hair is a mess, and he's got beer and he's drinking beer, and for all the world it looks like Budweiser. But then I paused it and I looked, and it's clearly Greeked. It's really, but it was Greeked with class, so you didn't even notice.
Was the can originally Greeked, or did they digitally
I think it was a Bud. No, it wasn't digital. It was done with like a Sharpie.
Okay.
I think they took a Budweiser can and they Greeked. They just Greeked it, and they made it look like a Budweiser can, but when you look closely, it wasn't anything.
Yeah, they do make at prop stores. They do make these labels that you can put over cans,
right?
So it looks like it looks like a professional, and it's clearly supposed to be Diet Coke, but it isn't. But now it's where they actually created the trademark, created the company, so they own the trademark to copy.
Apparently, so somebody in the chat room is saying, and we never had to Greek anything on our Showtime or HBO shows. I guess he worked for those, and it's not required. You can show trademarks. I think sometimes it's just fear. Sometimes you'll see that. You'll see Apple is a registered trademark of Apple Incorporated and that kind of thing at the end. So some of it's just fear. I think a lot of it is you ain't getting diddly unless you give us some money.
Yeah,
either give us some product, or give us some money. Otherwise, you ain't getting no brand. So I think half of it's that as well. And Showtime and HBO don't care about that.
One of my favorite movies, Repo Man. I don't know whether they're making a comment on consumer culture or they just couldn't afford to clear all these logos. But everybody drinks like a white can with the word beer on it. And they're in a supermarket, and there's like a white box with the word cereal on it in Helvetica.
That takes me out of the movie when I see that. It doesn't feel real. That's why I think it's better just to.
Well, I don't know if you've seen Repo Man, but there's a lot of lack of reality.
It's not that real.
It's very punk.
Great movie. Great. Yeah, you know what? That's part of the ethos, probably the aesthetic of the movie, right? Beer. We're generic here. Beer.
They even have situations where I was reading an article where people who are like wannabe influencers, or they're not as successful as they want to appear to be, they will actually like do posts of, gosh, I really enjoy my new squish against my face, my new Stanley 12-foot outer retracting tape measure. SpawnCon hashtag to make it appear as though Stanley Tools is
because they
thinks my channel is so valuable that they're doing sponsored content when in fact nobody knows about you and nobody cares.
Yeah. That's an interesting.
This is a hell of a tape measure, by the way. And they're very. I'm not being paid. I really do. I've got so many Stanley tape measures.
See, I'm at great pains, and we say it all the time. Nobody believes it because trade media often is completely corrupt, but we're at great pains to say, no, we buy our products, or if it's not bought, it's a loaner. We never take products. We never take payment. And we're at great pains to say that. I don't want anybody to think that we're doing that. And when we do an ad, like for instance, here's an ad. We do the ad, and then we come back, and it's obvious. I hope. I know people aren't fooled. Yeah. Wow, why did Leo spend an hour talking about LastPass? Do you think they're paying him for that?
So weird.
Yeah.
He really likes LastPass.
on the Material podcast, when we talk about Google, I have to when there used to be 3 hosts, and I was the only journalist, and so from the beginning, for the first 150 episodes, I'm like, I do not do ad reads because I don't want to mix up my editorial voice with my sponsored voice.
Completely fair.
Now Florence Ion, the wonderful Florence Ion, who is also a journalist, is doing it. So we decided that we're going to have to trade off. So, but every time I get to that point in the ad read where it says, and now at this point, give a personal story about how using this service has affected you. And it's the biggest bargain that the advertiser ever gets, because I will say, and now here's the point in the ad where I'm supposed to read about, I'm supposed to tell you about what personally I had. And then I will talk for 20 minutes just specifically about how now this is sponsored content. I'm being asked to tell a personal experience. And I'm trying to make it look as honest as possible, because if I would not say something about it that I don't honestly believe, and fortunately it's not been a problem before. But
that's why
really
we're careful. About this. We're very careful. Yeah, we only choose advertisers if I'm doing an endorsement, and by the way, that's an FTC rule. You should know. If you are saying I use this product in an ad, you have to actually be using that product. You can't make that up. And that's a strict rule in the FTC. I think people don't know that.
Yeah, I'm concerned that this new generation. I don't think that they don't have as good ethics or morals as older generations do. I just think that they didn't grow. I grew up in an era in which this was the third wire. If you're reviewing products, you have to make sure that you are as close to pure as you can possibly get. I mean, I bought Google gave me the Pixel 4 phone. So it wasn't a loan. I own it because it was just everybody got a bag, or excuse me, certain people who were reviewing got bags with the Pixel 4 at the end of the event. And my Pixel 1 is definitely at end of life. And I've been using my Pixel 1 because I don't feel, even though no one will know about it, I don't feel as though I can use this phone that I technically own as my real phone, because it was given to me by the company that made it. And so that's why I bought a Pixel 4a last week. I would much rather use a phone with much lower capabilities that I can say, no, I paid for this. I bought it with my own money. Because it is my day-to-day carry phone. I feel as though the current generation, I don't feel as though it's the third wire that it used to be. However, I don't think that a lot of these influencers understand that if someone gives you like a $2,000 laptop and you're using it day to day, that sort of grinds away at your objectivity. And you need to sort of monitor that carefully. So it's again, interesting times.
Let's take a little. Actually, we don't have a break here, but if we did, this would be where we take a little break.
And then have an ad. Which we don't have. Sigh.
No. Have you ever had to do it to take a measurement, then walk all the way back to the end to get that tape measure back? Say no more with automatic retractable technology, thanks to the amazing.
Actually, one of the reasons I don't make or encourage or ask any other people on the shows, any of you guys, for instance, to join in the ads. You can if you want. I never stop you, but is for that very reason. I consider you journalists, and I don't mind if I compromise my own integrity, but yours, no, that's sacrosanct.
and again, I hope I'm not coming across as saying that unless you are like Consumers Union, where you don't even accept a loaner for purpose of review.
We rarely accept loaners. I bought this. Yeah. I bought this. Almost everything we use, I bought. Now, there's a Pixel 4a in-house Jason has that is a loaner from Google, I believe, but he also, interestingly, bought one. And when the loaner from Google goes back, he's going to own that one. Most of the time we try. I'm in a lucky position where we have enough revenue where we can do that. I'd far prefer to do that, partly because I don't want to talk to these PR people. I don't want to get a call from them saying, hey, we gave you that 4A, but you said it was terrible. What's wrong with you? I don't want to get involved in that. So I think it's always better. It's also more realistic for us to have the experience of buying something and then reviewing it. If you could do that. Most people can't. I wouldn't expect.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I certainly can't afford to buy everything.
No.
Unfortunately, that has its own kickback. Like when Olympus years ago sent me the OMD EM1 to review, and I had it for 60 days, and then I had to send it back, and I'm like, but I love you.
No, that's the other reason.
And so I had to. So months later, I had to buy one because it's like, but I love you.
Yeah.
I want you to stay.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm stalling a little bit because in 15 minutes we have a little birthday party for somebody you all know. We're going to do a little celebration. We got a visit from Jonathan Mann, and we're all going to sing a song for somebody we know and love. So, hey, Rene, talk to me about the new beta for watchOS 7 because you have spoken about it. First of all, caveat, right? Not a good idea to do the public betas on the watch.
Yes, and especially now because VoiceOver is not working. If you rely on VoiceOver, well, first, don't ever put it on a main device, so that should never be a problem. But if you are reckless like I am, be aware that VoiceOver is not working, and that could be a huge problem if you rely on it.
Yeah. And it still could potentially require a trip to Apple if you.
You can't, like, the port is not user accessible, so you can't just plug it into your computer and restore it or DFU it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So don't oversell how great this is.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, when watchOS 7 comes out, which is probably a month from now, something like that, right?
2 months, yeah.
2 months? You don't think it'll be September?
I think it'll be October, early October.
Okay, so understand that. You'll be living with it for a while. And when it comes out, it'll upgrade automatically, and you won't have to worry. You're no longer in a beta version, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I did do this with iOS 14 on both my iPad and iPhone, and I'm glad. I love the features of iOS 14. And then we've had the third update to that public beta.
And there was really no being worse. There was no chance to be worse than iOS 13, frankly. So,
so tell us about. So you have the soap, squish, 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 wash, wash, wash.
I love that. I love that so much. I want it for toothbrushing now. I want it for mask wear. Yeah. So basically, you come in, and if it realizes you've been out, it'll just pop up a thing saying, "Hey, you should wash your hands." Otherwise, if you just go to wash your hands, it understands the hand movement and the sound of the water, because it does a lot of audio identification now if you want it to. The sound of the water and the soap, and it'll start a countdown for 20 seconds. You don't have to like sing happy birthday to yourself twice. It'll just do that countdown and then give you a taptic and some fireworks saying like, "Well done."
Now, some have said it often mistakes other behaviors. I don't want to say what they are.
I have not had that happen.
No, it's my vibrating toothbrush, I promise.
It might mistake other behaviors for hand washing, and that could be annoying, at least distracting. No, you haven't had that happen.
I can't think, like, because you really have to be like turning your hands and like doing like nothing that you would occur in nature, like house cleaning maybe.
I could think of something,
but like. Well, I think you probably mutilate, like the extent of activity and reversal of hand positions. I think you'd mutilate several farm animals before you got it.
Okay. And it also listens for the sound of water, yeah?
Yeah, water and soap. So I mean, you do you. So I'm not going to judge.
But watch Greenpeace say, "Hey man, you're encouraging everybody to waste water, man."
Though now I'm thinking you could have an app that would say, "Should you really be doing that right now?" That would be kind of interesting.
Well, so what I really want is for it to detect you leaving the house and ping and say you should be wearing a mask. And if you try to Face ID and it doesn't see a mask, say, "Dude, really, you should be wearing a mask."
I love it. No,
your phone just goes to max volume and starts going ding, shame.
Hey, what else is new in the beta 7 of watchOS 7?
So sleep tracking is new. It doesn't do quite as much as some of the third-party ones, and I don't know if that's because Apple doesn't consider things like light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep to be accurate at this point, or if they just want to do what they typically do when they Sherlock, and that is do base level functionality so that apps can Moriarty them with deeper functionality on top of it. But there's basic sleep tracking, and it's really in depth. You set a bedtime like you used to do in the clock app, but now it's in the health app. When you go to sleep, when you want to wake up, you can have a wind down period where it will play music or do a HomeKit scene or execute a Siri shortcut for you. It will lock the watch so that if you accidentally move your arm, it doesn't light up. You have to actually tap it or press the the digital crown to get a very minimal, very dark watch face. And if you want to actually wake up the watch and use it, you have to spin the digital crown quite a lot to actually get back access to the watch. And on the phone, you have to press a dismiss button. So they're really trying to make sure it's like a low disturbing mode. And then when you wake up, it'll measure sort of the sleep that you've had and your blood pressure and all these, your heart rate and all these things. And it's across iPhone and iPad.
That's, by the way, that's why I'm interested in this Samsung thing. I know they don't have the feature. Yeah. But if it could if it's a blood oximeter, which is, by the way, useful in COVID detection, because that's one of the symptoms is reduced efficiency, or in blood pressure, which I monitor regularly. My doctor's always saying, "How's your blood pressure? How's your blood pressure?" It'd be great if they could do that accurately. Do you think Apple will do that?
So many companies. They've bought so many companies. They're trying. It's one of the highest things.
It's a hard thing to do accurately.
Said this publicly. Yeah, all these companies had wonderful claims, and none of them were reliable enough through testing to release to the public yet.
It's the wrist. Yeah. If it were in your ear, it probably could do it.
And we're getting there.
So I think maybe that's the next AirPods Pro.
Yeah, we're getting
Pro
there.
Plus.
We're getting there. And the thing I really love though is watch faces. So like if you design a killer watch face, or Andy or Lori does, like she has like the killer rock watch face, and Andy has the perfect photography watch face, and you have like a great yoga one. We can send those to each other, or we can download them from the App Store, or from like you can share them on social media. And because apps can have multiple complications from the same, faces can have multiple complications from the same watch now, same app now. You could have like a Nike watch or a fantastic, like a Carrot Weather app could just insult you 5 different ways every time you look at it. It's just super, super interesting, and I'm enjoying it already.
All right, good. I can't wait. I'm actually very excited about all the new products. We might be waiting on the iPhone 12 a little bit. Speak about that rumor. What's
everything? It's
everything.
Just, they couldn't travel, so they couldn't go to China. They couldn't do the usual prototyping and testing and vetting. That I think it's no secret either that United Airlines depended hugely on Apple's business. They would do nonstop flights. Their people would go over there over and over again to do all that. And now they've been working from home as well, which has its own constraints. So on the financial results call, Luca Maestri said that there would be a few weeks behind or a few weeks later than normal for the iPhone, which probably means instead of second week of September, end of September, beginning of October. And the Apple Watch is paired with the iPhone, so that bleeds over. And it's hard. I would hope that they'd release iOS early, because it would help break up. Where's my new iPhone? At least I can play with iOS. But there's no telling. It just feels like October is a big month this year instead of September.
Congratulations to Tim Cook, now in the 3 Comma Club. We have to give him a new T-shirt. And of course, Apple, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, coming precious close to a market cap of $2 trillion. I remember when $1 trillion was a big deal.
Yeah. And he still has no founder's money.
Well, he's given it all away anyway. After a certain point, you probably. Bill Gates said that. He said, once you get $1 billion or so, you're virtually infinitely rich.
Jeff Bezos has shown that you can't run a company and count your money at the same time. Like he just has no idea what's going on at Amazon. There's so much money to count.
Yeah, I'm busy counting my money. Stop bugging me. But Apple is going to do that stock split. I don't really normally do financial news. I don't think it's, germane to what we talk about, but it's, you could say Apple's successful. There's no doubt about that. Good. I will mention this, a really good piece I thought in the Wall Street Journal about Tim Cook and how he made Apple his own and we mentioned this, we talked about this. Steve Jobs' advice to him, Tim Cook's repeated it several times, is you as you said earlier, you do you, Tim. Don't try to be me. Don't try to think of what would Steve do, but do what you think is right. And Tim Cook's clearly done that, and it's actually taken Apple a little bit in a different direction. Instead of, innovative new products, they've gradually and gracefully improved their existing products and at the same time improved their financial position dramatically.
I think in hindsight, we're also learning that there's a lot of mistakes that might have been made before that Tim Cook is hopefully trying to avoid this time around. Things that have to do with, bullying other companies into this or that. So
Steve spent a lot of cycles being angry at Google over Android, right? and sued the hell out of him and said this thermonuclear war. That energy could have been used much more wisely. You don't get the feeling Tim Cook does that. Tim.
On the one hand, Steve Jobs was like a little indie guy who was scrappy and wanted to do it his way. And then Tim Cook took over and wanted to make this company a $1 trillion company. And guess what? He made it a $2 trillion company. So, there's a difference there for sure.
Yeah. Well, he's an operations guy. There's no question about that. That's why Steve Jobs brought him in. That's what he did. And that's what he's brought to the senior role. But at the same time, I think he's guided Apple intelligently and well. That's not an easy thing to do these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just if all he ever got credit for is their basically bringing just-in-time manufacturing to Apple, if all he did was creating infrastructure so that they could make exactly the products they want to the quality they want, and not get them at the speed that they want, that was absolutely transformative. And maybe you can argue that they're unforeseeable. The upcoming trade wars with China and human rights problems with China were maybe unforeseeable. This is the reason why Apple went from a successful company to an Apple, right, to the absolute pinnacle of what American business can do.
It was a great 1-2 punch. Jobs, Cook, right? I mean, there was a perfect combination, one after the other. Now, I have to point out that it could be a jinx. This article could be a jinx. They always said if you're on the cover of Sports Illustrated, that's it for your career. And this is one of those. It almost feels like an elegy for Tim Cook. And so it could be a little bit of a jinx.
Probably ulterior motives. I think that this feels to me like someone's preparing their publishing resume.
Interesting.
Nothing to do with Tim Cook.
Oh, interesting.
That's just my usual.
Publishers do not like Apple, though, for a lot of reasons. Apple News Plus, for instance, though I don't think the Wall Street Journal is in there, is it? New York Times is not.
They are. The Wall Street Journal.
The Journal is in there?
The New York Times pulled out, but I think the Journal is still in.
Yeah. So
the Journal's still there.
Okay. What's interesting, there's a story this week that Apple's iOS 14 is going to change how links work in Apple News. Instead of, when you click on an article, instead of taking you to the website of the publisher, it's going to send you to news, even if you click that link in Safari. Now, this is the default setting. You will be able to turn that off in the Apple News Plus settings. But wow, now you have to be a subscriber to Apple News Plus. So I think what Apple's saying is you subscribe to Apple News Plus because you care about this publication and you want to read it this way, maybe?
Well, no, it's not just that. It's like the problem they had before, and this is one of my biggest frustrations with News Plus, is like I can read that article because I pay for News Plus and it's in News Plus, and I click on the article and it says I have to buy a subscription to that magazine, and there is no way to get to that article because News, like, you can't search for it. You've got to just scroll forever and hope that it's there, and it is so frustrating because, like, I know I have access to it, I paid for it, and I can't get it. And my solution would have been to just make decent search in the News Plus app.
Yeah.
But what they're doing, like, to be customer friendly, is that if it detects you have a subscription to News Plus, instead of opening you up in Safari and you having that gate saying please pay for a subscription you knew you already paid for, it's sending you over there. The problem is that they are doing it in like Slack and other apps. They're not calling Apple. Someone last night went through and did all the packet sniffing. They're not calling Apple for some for some allow disallow list. They're not doing anything nefarious that way, but they are taking over. Yeah,
I appreciate that.
They are taking over the link.
And publishers could reasonably say, as somebody did on Twitter, Architect Tony said, whoa, I wonder how many publishers in Apple News Plus realize the new iOS 14, and Big Sur does this too, are by default intercepting traffic to their sites and sending it to the Apple News app instead. That's one way of looking at that.
They have TechCrunch's premium content is a very small portion, but it's non-discriminatory. Like if it detects a TechCrunch link, it's like, oh, you pay for Apple News Plus, and that has, I forget what TechCrunch Plus is called. It's got a different name, but it'll just send any TechCrunch link there, and then they lose out on the traffic for like 95% of their articles, which aren't premium content.
Yeah. Big move from Google. Their Google Maps is coming to Apple Watch, and they're adding CarPlay dashboard support. So it's now, does that mean it's at a parity with Apple Maps? And I didn't realize that was up to Google all this time.
I don't know.
Since last
I was
Google Maps has been on the watch before, but it was not a good implementation. Whenever I always use Apple Maps if I want it to show up on my watch, which is chiefly when I'm walking, because I like that feature and I can't get anything else to do that. I always assumed it was because Apple said, well, it's Apple Maps, right? You're going to use Apple Maps.
Google didn't have the access that Apple had to the watch, so they couldn't provide a good experience.
Exactly.
Which is why some other apps left as well.
So does this mean that Apple has capitulated to Google to do this?
They keep adding. No, it's everybody. Like a bunch of podcast apps came back last year too. Apple just provided way more background access and API access. And
Thank you.
Swift UI is doing wonders for what they can do in terms of interface and things.
Yeah. Also, this is an area where you want to be careful because it looks a little anti-competitive if you say, well, Apple Maps just works better in CarPlay and on the watch.
This is where it's all about communication. Apple, in so many of these cases where in any other company you would assume this is an anti-competitive act, Apple can legitimately say that we're not opening up this API because we're concerned about the stability and the security of the platform, and you know that it's not BS. But they need to be very, very clear about why these things are happening, because silence is dangerous, especially in the current climate.
Yeah. Hey, a good friend of the network, somebody we like an awful lot, I think everybody likes an awful lot, Steve Wozniak is celebrating a birthday today, August 11th. In fact, you're invited to a party tonight. We tried to get Steve on, but he's just way too busy. But his 70th birthday celebration tonight benefits Jules Inspiring Children Foundation. And, of course, Steve loves the music, and it's kind of nice. I gathered Janet, his wife, put this together. So it's WOZBDAY.com. It'll also be on Twitch and Twitter. Apparently, you just can go in and register. Janet invites you to celebrate Woz's 70th birthday. So they're going to stream music and stuff, music, entertainment, stories, and heartfelt expressions of love tonight at 5 o'clock. Pacific time. So that's pretty awesome. I want to make sure everybody knows. And it is for a very good cause. Oh, here's the guest. Penn Jillette will be there. That's cool. Andrea Bocelli. Andy Hertzfeld will be there. Got his name wrong, though, but that's okay. We know who he is. Randy Wigginton, some old-timers from the good old days. Richard Branson. I hope he's not singing. Santana. Roger McGuinn, who is a geek in spirit, and I'm glad Roger will be playing, former founder of the Byrds. Magician Lance Burton, comedian, well, I use that word loosely, Larry the Cable Guy, David Copperfield, Shepard Fairey, some big names, Emmylou Harris, Mark Cuban. Wow, the list goes on and on and on. Mickey Hart, Mick Fleetwood, Mr. Brainwash, Nancy Pelosi, Nitrazak and Snaggy, William Shatner, and Olivia Newton-John. Wow. Jewel and Jay Leno, too. Jewel, of course, is the founder of the Inspiring, or the promoter, I guess, of the Fire.
Janet was doing a really good job. She was reaching out to so many different people to say, hey, we're doing this. Try not to tell Steve about this. But if you can create a video, that would be simply awesome.
So is there a little Andy Anako in there, too?
Probably. I think no. I made it was one of those things where I made a note to, let's definitely do this, and then I was like, but what am I going to do? And then so I didn't. Plus, I mean, okay, come on, you got Emmylou Harris, you got Penn Jillette. I'll do something in my. I'll figure out something to do.
Should be a lot of.
Reading this list, I just got an idea that like for the after times, once when we can actually like do things in theaters again. You know how like there are podcasts that will do like a tour of like little theaters and just do like an episode of the podcast, from a theater, and it'll sell out. If if there were like sort of a Monsters of Mac or Monsters of Apple tour where it was just a panel of like Woz and Andy and Steve Capps and all these other people, they will do like a 12-city tour of just staying on stage and talking about like the old days for 2 or 3 hours. Wouldn't you spend $75 for that? Even if there were Ticketmaster surcharges, I would spend $75 for that. WOZBDAY. Woz says it's my 46th birthday today. It's in hexadecimal. He'll be 70 years old, and I think they're staying at the Ahwahnee Lodge in the world famous Yosemite National Park. So that's
beautiful.
That's a nice view he's got out his window. There, we thought we would. John, are we ready? No, okay. We wanted to sing him a happy birthday, but we're having trouble getting our. We couldn't get Jewel.
Music clearances. we haven't got
but you have me, yet. So
we have Lori Gill.
Yes.
We have Andy Anako. We have Rene Ritchie. All right, I'll tell you what. We're going to go to our picks of the week, and maybe Skype willing, we'll have a song for Mr. Wozniak. Happy birthday, Steve. We're all big.
We love you.
Fans. We love you.
Happy birthday.
Let's kick off the pick of the week with you, Rene Ritchie.
So my pick of the week is, so I love the stuff by Rogue Amoeba because they are just 9th level ninja masters at hacking around everything that I typically find annoying and limiting about OS 10, Mac OS's sound system, which goes all the way back to core audio and foundation issues I won't get into now. But I've used a ton of their products over the years, and SoundSource has been particularly useful over the last few months. And they have a brand new version of it, SoundSource 5. If you're not familiar with it, it lets you individually control sound sources on your Mac, which might sound like not important to you. But for example, I'm on a call like a Hangout or I forget what Google calls it now, whatever, Meet. I have no idea what Google calls their software anymore. Or Skype or Zoom, and like a FaceTime call or a phone call will come in, and I want to answer it, but I want to mute everything, but I don't want to mute this, and you can't. Like you'll put the volume down, or I'll want to listen. Like you or Andy or Lori will mention something, and I'll try to watch the video while someone else is talking, and you just can't control anything. This lets you set the individual volume for every audio source on your Mac. So you can have an information stream running quietly in the background while you're on your meeting. You can have your meeting quietly on the background while you're just talking to someone quickly about an urgent need that they have. If you want to have multiple streams, like you're trying to listen to Apple's earnings call while doing your live stream, and you have to have Apple's earnings call low enough that you can still hear what the other people on the live stream. All of those things, like Rogue Amoeba does so often, they just solve it for you, beautifully, professionally, elegantly, simplistically. You don't have to worry about it. They do. It's just it's software that makes you happy about owning your Mac.
It's funny because on the radio show this weekend, a guy, Brian, who lives in Nashville, he's a naturalist, records bird sounds, and he says, I have all these sounds that are different levels, and I want it to be consistent when I play something back from this and this and this. Is there anything that'll do that? And I said, boy, there sure ought to be, but I don't know. And then somebody said, oh, Rogue Amoeba just released SoundSource 5. And it was a weird coincidence because it was exactly, I think it's what, $50? It was exactly what he needed.
It's on sale right now.
Yeah. Oh, maybe it was Chris Mark. No, Chris uses it, but it was before Chris. It was right before Chris's call. Chris confirmed. He said, "Yeah, this is a really good choice." I think it was somebody in the chat room. Actually, I want to give credit to. It was Edmonton Oiler guy who knew. So thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty cool SoundSource, and that's one of the things you could do is you could set a standard level for all the devices on your network. It's not the same thing as Audio Hijack. It's more. Is it mixing?
No, Audio Hijack is. I don't even use it for that. I don't know if it does. Like I used to use a tool called Levelator where you would give it an audio source and it would just level everything inside it. And I haven't checked if this can do that. I don't know. I don't use it for that. I just use this again as like having separate volume knobs for every single audio source.
That's what he was looking for. It does support some additional processing that you can do. And it does support audio units. So once you support audio units, there's nothing. The sky's the limit. That's Apple's plug-in audio plug-in format. Hey, speaking of audio, before we get to your picks, Andy and Lori.
Oh, yep.
I want to welcome Jonathan Mann onto the show. He's been writing a song a day for more than 4,000 days. Here's Jonathan Mann. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. How you doing?
We're thrilled that you could come on. We all wanted to wish Woz a happy birthday, and I thought maybe Jonathan would have a good way to do that.
I do have a good way to do that. 10 years ago, after Steve Jobs used my song in the Antennagate thing, Steve Wozniak's wife commissioned me to make him a birthday song. And then out of the blue, a couple months ago, here we are 10 years later for his, that was his 60th. This is his 70th. She asked me to do it again. So I 10 years, all of us are 10 years older. And so I wrote him another song.
And we'll be hearing it, I'm sure, tonight, but let's get a preview.
Yes. I think they're going to be playing the video there that I made for him, but I will do you a acoustic version. So here we go. Well, happiness equals smiles minus frowns, and laughter is the most beautiful sound. What's the point if it isn't fun? You get nothing done without passion. Oh, 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 that's the was. Oh, 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 that's the was. He likes math tricks and gadgets and Raspberry Pi projects. He made a camera that detects hummingbirds. 3 kids and 7 grandkids. Oh, he loves taking road trips. He'd give you the shirt off his back. You just say the word. Ooh, Woz has got everything you could ever want, including honorary doctoral degrees. So on his birthday, don't email. No gifts, please, as well. Please donate to his favorite charity, inspiringchildren.net. Oh, happiness equals smiles minus frowns, and laughter is the most beautiful sound. What's the point if it isn't fun? You get nothing done without passion. Oh, 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 that's the was. Yeah, oh, oh, that's the was. He invented the personal computer, pouring his heart into subroutine. Remember when he was on Dancing with the Stars and Big Bang Theory, and on Celebrity Watch Party? Oh, you can clearly see Woz's tender heart is on display, and he's proud of being a geek and feels so lucky, 'cause Janet loves him every minute of every day. Ooh, bent but never broken. He loves inspiring children to be the kindest, most passionate they can be. He's always got time for fans, so if you can lend a hand, please donate to his favorite charity, inspiringchildren.net. Oh, because happiness equals smiles minus frowns, and laughter is the most beautiful sound. What's the point if it isn't fun? You get nothing done without passion. Oh, 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 that's the was. Oh, 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 that's the was. Oh, 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 that's the was.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, Jonathan Mann, the Song a Day Man. You can follow him on YouTube. Unaccountably, his YouTube channel is The Rock Cookie Bottom. But I think if you just search for Jonathan Mann, I'm sure there's a story there.
There is, yeah.
And, of course, he's got a podcast at podcast.jonathanmann.net. Jonathan, thank you so much for performing for that for us. I can't wait till tonight. We got the unplugged version. We'll see the full mix tonight at WASB-Day.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Have a great day. Yay.
You too. Have a good one.
Applause from the chat room. They're silent, but they're applauding. Trust me.
Well, if someone who's written a song a day for thousands of days can't find a rhyme for inspiringchildren.net, it's not possible.
Woz is easy to rhyme, though.
Woz, you got it.
Woz, you can rhyme. Really, really nice. I'm 70 years old. It's a great, big, important milestone birthday, and we're just so happy for you, Woz. WASBday.com. The stream will also be at twitch.tv/InspireHouse. Twit.tv.
Nice.
Twitch, not Twit. Twitch.tv/InspireHouse. Andy Anako, your pick of the week.
Mine is a very, very simple thing. It's a site called window-swap.com. Two developers have simply created a platform where you can upload from anywhere in the world can upload a 10-minute HD video with sound of the view outside their window. And so now you just go to window-swap.com and you're looking, and you of course you want to full screen the window. And now you're looking through just the window of a random person who decided to shoot this 10-minute video. And it is like in a time where you can't really travel, and maybe you're feeling a little bit isolated. You just look out what is a random street in London. Again, there are no rainbows. It's not like, oh look, there's a herds of elephants going through the Serengeti. It's like, no, there's just, oh look, here's a taxi cab. I wonder if someone's getting out of the taxi cab soon. Oh nope, he's just picking someone up. Okay, that's interesting. And
it's fun because it's so mundane. It's real life. It's not, just as you say, it's not some magical moment. It's just how it looks out the window in Burgundy.
And it's only starting to get sort of traction. So we're not yet at the point in which like it's being Instagrammed, where someone is saying, oh, let me make sure I can show people my incredible lifestyle here. Right. And it's like, no, and a lot of yes, a lot of these views are very picturesque. But again, the ones that I really like are just, here's a street view, random street in Dallas, Texas.
It's the closest we get to traveling these days. That's
and I came across the link on Fark and on Reddit, and I just clicked it saying, I wonder what this is. And then I was surprised to find that I was dedicating one of my monitors on my desktop to just this view, because it is just nice to have as I'm working. Can
you have it automatically switch, or do you have to click each time?
I believe it automatically switches at the end of each video.
Oh, okay. So you could just leave it up and then it will switch every 10 minutes. For instance, here we are in Cornwall in the UK. Who knew they surfed in Cornwall? No idea.
Cornwall don't surf. Sorry.
It's kind of fun. I love the mundanity of it. Exactly. Here we are in Greece.
It is a very human connection.
Yeah,
that you're
really like it. Yeah. And it's out somebody's window, which is great. You even see the reflection of the window. Here we are in Madrid.
You also get room sound. I think they had to later on. They had to say, oh, by the way, warning, we will post the audio too. So don't have a fight with your cat while you're shooting.
I feel bad for this poor person.
Oh, there's a cemetery in the background
who lives
there. I like
looking out of their balcony to a cemetery.
I love that. I would love that.
You would,
yeah,
because you have a kind of morbid turn to you. No, that's right. Reminds you. Yeah, reminds you. You know, life is short. Enjoy.
They're little parks.
Yeah, they're little parks. I think it's a good way to put it. Here's Brazil, Salvador City. It's really fun. Window-swap.com. Florence, let's all go. That's the only thing wrong with this. I just want to go.
I know.
You can go virtually.
You can go there. Honolulu. I just want to go there. I don't want to go there. Lori Gill, your pick of the week.
Well, this time around, I'm pulling out my makeup and nail art cards, and it's called Espionage Cosmetics.
What?
So,
what are you, a nail artist? Let me see your nails.
Oh no, I'm not. But it's what's so awesome about this is it's very nerd centric. So there'll be makeup color palettes that are named after,
BB-8.
firefly things.
Yeah.
Or exactly.
Nice.
There's nail art. One of my favorite nail arts. It's actually processor chips as nail art for your fingernails. So anybody, if you wear makeup and you're or do nail art and you're a nerd, this is such an adorable website.
Oh, here's the one you were talking about. This is a circuit board.
The circuit board, exactly.
So these
Look
are
how
wraps.
cute that is.
These are wraps, so you don't have to paint your nail. That you just put it on. Yeah.
Exactly. Nice. So anybody can have a circuit board on their fingernails. It's so cute. And it's all nerd-based stuff. So you kind of, the nerdy makeup wearers and nail art users can have a place to connect.
Now, will you do this of an important evening out? Will you put on a wrap for the special occasion?
Yeah. I would do. I mean, nothing as crazy as some of the makeup on here. It's so beautiful. I couldn't even come close to it. But I would decorate myself a little bit to go out and do some fancy things for sure.
Yeah. EspionageCosmetics.com. Very nice. I think this is a good way to end the show with a song, a dance, and some nail wraps. So thank you, Lori Gill, for being here. She's managing editor at imore.com, and always a welcome presence here on the show. Thanks for being here.
That song was great.
I'll see you at the party tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. See you
Put
tonight
on
at
some
the party.
Woz nail wraps. Put those on.
Yes.
Something
maybe
with
a cute little
Apple circuit
dress,
board.
a BB-8 dress.
BB-8 dress. Perfect. Get nerdy.
Yeah.
Andy Ihnatko, when are you going to be on GBH soon?
I was on earlier this week, so I was, if you go to wgbhnews.org, you can hear what I had to say yesterday. Normally I'm on Fridays, usually at about 1.
Good. Thank you for being here. IHNATKO on the Twitter, on the Instagram, and, of course, ihnatko.com on the internet. Rene Ritchie, he's at youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. None of these silly... weird handles for you, sir. Just your name.
I need a brand, Leo. I need a brand.
It's a good brand. RR. Great brand. Catch his reviews of the iMac, the new iMac 27-inch, the Apple Watch 7, and Big Sur as well. He's got it all up there. Great interviews, too. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Rene, for being here. Thank you all for joining us. We do the show every Tuesday, right after iOS Today. So if you come in early, you can watch iOS Today with Micah Sargent and a kind of older guy. I don't know who he is, but he's sometimes he's a little weird, but he's okay. Walks around in his underwear occasionally, but it's a good show. I highly recommend it. It's one of the best shows. That starts at 9 a.m. and then around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, we do Macbreak Weekly. That would be 1800 UTC. You can calculate your own time zone. Live streams, audio and video are at twit.tv/live. On-demand versions of this show at our website, as with all our shows, twit.tv. Twit.tv/MBW for this one, Macbreak Weekly, twit.tv/MBW. YouTube, there's a YouTube channel. I can never remember the name, something like youtube.com/MacBreakWeekly. I would guess in that vicinity. The main Twit channel has links to all of our channels. It's youtube.com/Twit. I think the last thing I'd have to say is subscribe. Find your favorite podcast application. There are many to choose from. Subscribe, and that way, ring the bell, click the button, do all the things the kids do, and that way you'll get it the minute it's available of a Tuesday evening. Thanks for being here. Now I'm sad to say, time to get back to work because break time is over. Happy birthday, Woz. Bye-bye.
Happy birthday, Woz.
Happy birthday.
Want more Twit? Well, check out Hands on iOS, twit.tv/HOI, where I teach you all about iPhones, iPads, AirPods, Apple Watches, and so much more. If you want to get the most out of your device, then you got to check out Hands on iOS, twit.tv/HOI.